and welcome. For all of you who are watching, you're tuned into TMH as we present you our daily English news. Our headlines for today: the government of Tigray expresses readiness to participate in the proposed peace talks in South Africa by the AU. Tigray government urges the international community to live up to the pledge of quote-unquote never again. And hospital says it has received 87 people wounded by the second Adidaro massacre that killed over 65 people this past week. As we move on to our main updates for today, the government of Tigray has expressed their readiness to participate in the proposed peace talks to take place in South Africa. President of Tigray, Debretsion made the announcement in a response to the AU Commission Chairperson's Faki Mahamat's letter inviting the government of Tigray to South Africa to attend the talks and convened by the High Representative Olusegun Obasanjo. The government of Tigray said it is committed to a peaceful resolution of the current conflict, and the response reminded the AU chairman of Tigray government statement that was issued on the 11th of September 2022, reaffirming its readiness for an immediate negotiated cessation of hostilities to be followed by a permanent ceasefire as well as political dialogue. It also noted that the AU chairman welcomed the statement that the same day and urged both parties to urgently work towards an immediate ceasefire. Unfortunately, because you have not gone beyond this initial statement, it would be helpful to the peace process and to know what your substantive position in the cessation of hostilities really is, as the government of Tigray requested within the statement. While expressing its readiness to send its negotiating team to South Africa, it also asked for clarification on some issues in order to establish an auspicious start for these peace talks to be held. The issues include whether or not the other party to the conflict was consulted prior to the assurance of the invitation, whether there will be an additional actors to be invited as participants, observers, or guarantors in the roles, what the AU chairman envisages for the international community, and the logistics such as travel, security, and arrangements for the Tigray negotiating team as well. Meanwhile, Tigray government has urged the international community to live up to the pledge of never again. The government of Tigray issued a statement on the second round of the Adidaro massacre that took place in northwestern Tigray, which as of midday yesterday killed over 65 people and wounded 70 others. The statement said that the Adidaro massacre on the IDPs on the 4th of October 2022 came on the heels of a devastating airstrike a week earlier by the Eritrean regime, killing and wounding numerous civilians there as well. It added that this reflects the genocidal regime's assumption that there will be no meaningful consequences for their ongoing, deliberate, and vicious attacks on these civilians. These IDPs, who were previously staying in makeshift IDP camps in Adiabo, were violently evicted from their homes and taken to western Tigray by the genocidal invaders. And what makes the latest massacre especially gut-wrenching is the fact that these IDPs had been forced to relocate to Adidaro as a result of the second round of genocidal invasion by the Abiy Ahmed and Isaias Afwerki regimes. And the international community's failure to impose even minimal costs on these regimes for systematically violating international humanitarian and human rights law has emboldened them to ramp up the level of brutality that they continue to inflict on the people of Tigray. By allowing these lawless regimes to violate international law with impunity, the international community is facilitating the gradual demise of the rules-based international order, as the government of Tigray stated, and the people of Tigray who are fighting against subjugation and elimination do not need perfunctory as well as a statement of concern urging all sides to cease hostilities as well. The statement called on the international community to take practical measures to halt these ongoing campaigns, eliminate the people of Tigray for no other reason than refusing to give up their cherished rights of self-determination and fundamental right to survive as merely humans. Hospitals said that they have received over 87 people wounded by the second round massacres in Adidaro, and medical director of Sahel Hospital in Shira, Dr. Fasahatzeon Gabramahedin said his hospital received more than 87 civilians wounded by these drone attacks in Adida'ado town. Let's take a listen.
So far, we have seen around more than 87 civilians who are attacked, and this is very devastating situation. We are living in a very devastating situation. I don't know. At this time in 21st century, living in such environment, attacking by civilians, get attacked by military weapons, it's very, very devastating.
He also added that and said his hospital ran out of supplies to help these civilians that are heavily wounded by these attacks. Tigray Interreligious Council calls for peace, humanitarian access, and the resumption of all basic services in the Tigray region. The Tigray Interreligious Council, in an open letter to the world religious and secular institutions, called on the recent bombardment at Adida'ado, Shara, Adigrat, and other places of Tigray very devastating and heartbreaking. The letter recalled that the war on Tigray that claimed the lives of over 500,000 people is still continuing to rage massacres of civilians, brutal extrajudicial killings, as well as gang rapes, and they continue in the area still occupied by the same perpetrators of crime, the Ethiopian and Eritrean governments and their allies included. Monasteries, churches, mosques, and places of worship have been destroyed and looted. Historical, cultural sites, including world heritages, have been destroyed or looted and vandalized as well. Schools from kindergarten up to universities, public and privately owned institutions, health institutions are looted and destroyed on a daily basis. Livestock have been killed or stolen. Crops on farmlands and harvests have been burned and looted, while farming tools destroyed by these perpetrators as well. The Council believes that widespread war crimes and ethnic cleansing and genocide have been committed within the Tigray region. It added that 7 million people of Tigray are being siege-starved, deprived of all basic services like telephone, internet, banking, electricity, road and air transport, education, medical services, and fuel and other supplies as well. The Tigray Interreligious Council called on the world religious secular institutions to put pressure on the Ethiopian government to reopen basic services immediately. It also called for the action to put pressure on the Eritrean forces to pull out from the entirety of Tigray. The Tigray Interreligious Council also urged the international institutions to put pressure on both the Ethiopian government, the Tigray regional government, and finally declare a ceasefire and resume peace talks as well. It called for independent international investigators and media to access Tigray and disclose the reality that's taking place on the ground currently. UN Undersecretary for Humanitarian Affairs Martin Griffiths expresses relief that humanitarian workers were in fact able to be safely evacuated in Ethiopia's Tigray region. According to Griffiths, the humanitarian workers who were able to rotate and safely reroute out of Tigray today after several weeks of suspension. This is encouraging news, and I trust that the further movements will go smoothly, as the UN humanitarian chief said on his official Twitter account, and he also stressed that the dialogue is the only way to end this deadly ongoing conflict. Griffiths appealed to all parties to resume negotiations and protect all of the civilians and ensure the safety and security of humanitarian staff and their safe access to people in need, and allow the resumption of rapid, unimpeded passage of humanitarian supplies into the region finally. That concludes our news for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bye-bye.